very good at handling. Just Hunter has so much freezing trap. You can stun it, you can feign death the thing from beyond. Like there's so much you can do to avoid as Hunter. And Demon Hunter, you just haha lol, just heal through it, right? Like it doesn't even matter how.
Big truth.
So,
You sound
but
a
I
little
mean,
biased, Moves.
We're angry. We are very
hey,
angry
what do you
about
mean?
Demon
At
Hunter.
Demon
OP.
Hunters existing?
Listen,
Demon Hunter is
I
not fair.
play
Just
Demon Hunter as
reroll,
my main
man.
alt, and
Reroll.
it's not fair how tanky they are.
Oh gosh. Well, anyways, we are about 30 seconds into this freehold match 1 for this best of 5 grand finals. MethodEU versus MethodNA.
Well, we're starting off with the JB cam. We got the forehead peeking over the camera just a little bit. Both teams actually start off their first pull of the dungeon incredibly quick. MethodEU takes it just a little bit quicker, starts on Sky Captain Crag with a few seconds advantage over MethodNA. Could be due to a variety of things. Probably that Fell Barrage, like Moose is saying, the Demon Hunter does have significantly stronger on-demand AoE. But all in all, this is going to be interesting. I wonder if they're going to have any differences in their pathing. I think it was Gromnak Waiting Room versus MethodNA on Freehold. There was a little bit differences in their pathing in terms of like who was like walking up the right side versus who was walking up the left. And MethodNA had a couple hiccups at the very end on their 4 Awakened Obelisk pull with Harlan Sweet. So I think it's going to come down to the very end for Freehold. But I really do like Freehold in terms of like how fast-paced and action-packed it is.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. The first half of Freehold is pretty scripted in the sense that the pools are very, you do this first giant pull into Harlan Swede, and then you do the giant pull into the council. The stuff that varies is really the routing, how you get to Trothak, the timing on that, and then obviously what you pull into Harlan Swede. The Harlan Swede pull is very dangerous. Obviously the obelisk, but then even after that, pulling all of that trash into the barrages that you have on Harlan Swede. Very risky, very easy to die or get caught, or even if you get a corruption slow at the wrong time, right? It's very easy to die and all that stuff. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they deal with that.
I mean, Freehold is definitely one of those dungeons that has not a ton of unavoidable damage. So if you are playing well, generally speaking, you will not be taking too much damage inside of this dungeon. There are some things, of course, like Harlan Sweet's Cannonball Barrage, that there's just going to be inevitable damage coming out. But by and large, for like most of this dungeon, you can actually just do something that's just like you could just like play a little bit more conservative and just take 0 damage, which would be nice. All right, so
Sure.
MethodEU here is actually gearing up for a fairly large pull. They're looking to pull all of this trash into Council of Captains. MethodNA gearing up for a very similar pull. Both teams did instant drink that beer to be able to deactivate Eudora, because having 3 bosses up on Council of Captains also makes them do 100% increased damage, so not very feasible.
Yeah, so MethodNA is actually doing a very small pull. MethodEU started off doing a giant pull, and MethodNA only pulled, I believe it was just 1 pack into the boss. And so it'll be interesting to see if they pull additional packs afterwards, like maybe just the unholy cooldowns didn't line up properly. But yeah, you can see in the percentage that it's MethodEU is significantly ahead in terms of percent.
Yeah. We got the Death Knights here, really showing why they're so valuable, and that Hunter also up there at 263k. Yoda was a little bit lower in damage. I can only assume it was because he was actually running and starting the pig RP. That's a strategy that you actually do see a lot inside of these tournament realm settings, where the pig RP, you started immediately, like you have like a rogue run off, just to be able to make sure, and there it is right there, just to be able to make sure that you are spending as little time as possible. So they're grabbing the hog right there. And now it looks like MethodEU is taking it a little bit slower, whereas MethodNA has already started off on one of their pulls.
Yeah, so like I said, the difference is obviously MethodEU pulled a lot of stuff into Council. MethodNA just pulled 1 pack. They are about 15 to 20% of trash ahead, or MethodEU is ahead in trash. But it looks like MethodNA is going to do a lot bigger pulls here, probably on the turtle. Yeah, this pull looks significantly bigger from MethodNA. MethodEU's pull looks significantly bigger compared to MethodNA's pull.
I mean, I think that's what the composition from MethodEU has to absolutely take advantage
Right.
of. I wonder if they're going to be able to, or if they're going to even try to clear out the whole entire Harlan Sweet room. You can get about 35% of your trash count in that Harlan room just with the cannonball barrages. But we've seen some teams get about 35%, which is almost the full room. And we've seen some teams elect to go with a little bit less, believing that some of their trash pulls into stuff like Ludwig or Trothak are a little bit faster in terms of just the time that's going to be saved. So
Yeah.
they've been going into their like 74 or 75%. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So,
Are they starting this
oh, they're
obelisk?
doing they're doing the obelisk. So I think my opinion is and prediction is that MethodNA is going to pull more in the Harlan Swede room, and I think that just attributes to the Demon Hunter versus the BM Hunter that we were talking about earlier. Uh, Demon Hunter, you Fell Barrage, and it's very like you want to play around Fell Barrage. Like every minute, you want to pull big, obliterate everything, right? Versus BM Hunter, you have rapid reload, and you actually per target, you actually get resets on your aspect of the wild, and so it's actually more
Yeah.
beneficial for BM hunters to have ads throughout the entire fight, right? And so I think they're probably going to try and play around BM strengths as opposed to just bursting everything down at once, like MethodEU's been doing.
Sure. And MethodEU here, they did in fact kill Urgroth, Breaker of Heroes, the tank buster guy, and now are pulling into Trothak. I think that's why they were sitting so high on top of trash count, so they could afford to spend a little bit extra time to have a more conservative approach with Harlan Sweet, just making sure that they are able to have like better consistency. Because with these runs, the biggest problem for a lot of these teams would just be consistency, being able to do the same thing over and over again, and making sure that you have whenever you're taking chances, making sure that it's like a 90-10 versus like a 70-30 is going to overall be more important because there are a lot of things that could come to factor like later on. So actually clearing out Urgroth is okay. It is going to be slower though. MethodNA has down Trothak, whereas MethodEU is currently sitting at 40% on Trothak. So they're definitely behind. So
Yeah.
MethodNA, this is their game to lose, making sure that they are able to do Harlan Sweet with all of the Awakened Lieutenants without any problems. That is their key to success right now.
I actually think it's pretty close because if you look at trash percentage, Method EU's at 80% versus Method NA is at 67%. So trash is very different in terms of like obviously they're behind in terms of bosses. It'll be interesting to see if they do end up pulling all of this trash here
The
into Harlan Swede.
So the problem with that is that like you're using Harlan's Cannonball Barrage, which is by far the most efficient damage source in the game, because the players don't have to blow any cooldowns or do any DPS into the middle pack or any of the alternative packs to
Right.
be able to get everything down. Like everybody's cooldowns are coming out right now, so you're
Yeah.
bloodlusting, you're popping everything, and then after that, you don't have any more cooldowns to be able to spare. So while you're passively cleaving down Harlan, you're going to be grabbing that officer pack and some of those side packs and just dropping that cannonball barrage on top of them to be able to kill them with it. It is by far the most efficient way. It is a dangerous strategy. This requires a lot of practice, but if it is pulled off and executed cleanly, then it is a beautiful strategy.
Yeah, for sure. And we saw Method NA previously in their freehold actually messed this up and had a couple deaths. So if they can pull this off cleanly, like you said, I think this is definitely the quicker strategy.
Yeah,
But MethodEU has gone to Harlan Swede, and they did do an obelisk already, so they are playing it a little safer. They're only doing the three. It looks like they're not even doing the middle pack yet. They're just doing I think, trying to kill the obelisks first, and then killing trash afterwards.
yeah, and one of the things that it was kind of weird to me that Method U was actually playing Urgroth Breaker of Heroes so early is because he didn't actually seem that deadly in terms of like the relative uh difficulty of this pull that Method U is currently doing right now. Like Zalia and JB both being on those Mistweaver monks are able to pop away the crane. You can just stand in the Dark Fury as long as you're not getting comboed by something
Yeah.
else. You're and as long as you don't get 100 to 0, you can just stand in the Dark Fury. It's not going to kill you. It is
Well, not
dangerous, but
only
you will be healed to full the next global buy spinning crane kick from that way of the crane.
Right. Well, not only that, Urgot, usually when he does the tank buster, if you have to stand still, it does a lot of damage after the
Sure.
fact. But there's so much room in this freehold area, this Harlan Suite area, you can actually leap out if need be, right? Like you don't even have to take a lot of those melees after the fact, and so it is a lot safer compared to a lot of other bosses that we see.
Yeah, and MethodNA has just down Harlan Suite. I can't see if they're at 100% trash count, but I assume that they have
They
taken
are
the
at
match
100%
and
crash
are
count.
now
Yeah.
at 1-0 out
Yep.
of the
So
best of five.
MethodNA wins.
1-0 right now in this best of 5 series. Let's see how this goes. Take it away, guys.
Yeah, so Method EU starting a couple seconds ahead, but it looks like both teams are sky stepping and doing a giant pull, probably snapping it to the pillar right here. That is one thing that Shrine of the Storm is most common for, is that there are a ton of snap spots, all of these little pillars throughout the entire dungeon. You can snap all of these casters. It looks like on Method NA, there's one attendant that did not get snapped, and one of the frustrating things with casters is that they don't snap if you don't interrupt them, and so sometimes they just walk in. Oh, they did pull the living current. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not.
We've actually seen a lot of teams pulling living current. This thing actually gives 18 count, and you can pull it with some of the casters. In addition to that, if they do want, they can actually use revival to be able to dispel off that knockup. It's really not that bad. And if you were looking to pull it with some of the spiritualists or attendants, it's fairly efficient in terms of time to kill.
Right.
It's really not that bad. Whether it's intentional or not, I don't really know. But it is no longer a terrible mob if you are skilled enough to be able to deal with it appropriately.
Yeah.
If
The
you
only
are
reason.
trolling, then it's really bad. Though.
Yeah. The only reason I say I'm not sure if it was intentional because they pulled it in after the unholy burst. And so obviously, if you were to pull it, you'd probably want to bring it into that burst so that it gets obliterated with all the other mobs.
Sure.
But like we were saying at the beginning, they are doing this first obelisk. They're pulling Void Weaver down to the first boss area, and this is one of the reasons why you don't necessarily need a rogue in this dungeon. Looking at Method EU, looks like they had a full team wipe, and they are actually having to redo the giant pull, so they are significantly behind at this point.
It's gonna be yikes for me, dog. I
Yeah.
think I think Zalia ended up dying. I didn't see what happened. I think he got knocked back. Maybe it was by the ground effect or not. But he did end up going down, and then of course that's going to begin to cause problems. Whereas on the side of MethodNA, they are running here, killing Voidweaver Malthier on top of where Accuseer spawns. Sloot's favorite boss. Oh, they're pulling Windspeaker. Okay, so
Ooh,
they're
there it
pulling
is.
Windspeaker with all of this trash, and they're going to pull it all into Accuseer.
Oh,
JB
and the
also
blocks.
grabbing these droplets. This is going to be fat.
Yeah, the haste with the
Fat.
unholy burst. I mean, this is going to be.
Fat.
So haste was dropped off to the side. So Method EU actually wiped twice. So they have 10 deaths on the board right now. They
Much.
are very behind. We're going to see some unholy funnel into Acquisier right now. You can just see Acquisier's health just dropping with all this unholy unholy funnel. Man, I cannot talk.
Proud of
But
you.
yeah, this
Stop.
this this comp is looking very promising so far.
Windspeaker with Accuseer can be problematic from time to time. It just kind of depends. So if the undertow is synced up with the winds from Windspeaker Heldus, then there can be major problems. But on a 17 Tyrannical, that may be less daunting because the undertow does less damage, I'm pretty sure, than the Gale winds. So you'd rather it be Tyrannical than Fortified. But like, I
Yeah.
don't know. It just kind of, it's a very scary pull for them to have Windspeaker still be alive even right now. But as long as they are able to survive and on a plus 17, I don't expect there to be too many problems. Then this is like a really solid pull. It's a very solid strategy that's been practiced, I'm sure, a significant amount by MethodNA.
Yeah, for sure. It is also taming volcanics, so the affixes aren't really super scary in terms of like dealing with Windspeaker and the pushback at the same time. If it was something like Grievous or something like that, it would be a lot scarier doing this pull. But obviously, they successfully uh, phased the boss, and Windspeaker is just about dead. So it looks like they did this pretty cleanly.
So something that's notable about teaming is that you generally on teaming you'll end up pulling a bunch of the mini bosses. So typically you'll end up pulling 2 out of the 3 mini bosses, either Runecarver Storm, Windspeaker Heldus, or that Guardian Elemental on the bridge. I have a high suspicion that it will be the Guardian Ellie for MethodNA. Whether or not they end up brute forcing and killing the Guardian Ellie, or if they end up so no, I think they're doing Runecarver Storm. I lied to you guys.
They're doing, yeah.
Immediately backtracking, they're doing Runecarver Storm. That is their second mini boss that they're playing.
Yeah, so we actually see Yoda go and pull the pack on the other side. And so one of the big things with Runecarver Storm, obviously you have the shield that he puts down. You can actually do all of this trash and literally just stand in the rune, and you just don't take damage, right? As long as the trash is not in the rune,
Yeah.
this is a very efficient pull.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a solid pull from the side of MethodNA. The reason that I said I suspected that it was going to be the Guardian Ellie is because with the Protection Warrior, you're actually able to spell reflect the shock back onto the Guardian Elemental, but in a 17, it may be less valuable. They may still end up playing the Guardian
There's
Ellie.
shadow
I'm
melding,
not.
right?
It could be. It could blip. Could pull it back and then feign death it off. Or they
Yeah,
just.
it's
Oh, they're
shadow
just group
melding.
shadow
Yep.
melding. Yeah, never mind. They're just group melding it off. It's not really that big of a deal. So there it is. There, everything
go.
goes. And now MethodNA is about to gear up for a pretty large pull. Do you think they're about to pull this in the Tight Edge Council?
I
Oh yeah,
think
they're going
so.
into Tight Edge. Yeah,
There's
here it
no
comes.
way they don't. Yep. Yeah. So
There's
another
no limiting
unholy.
factor, right?
Oh yeah, this is big unholy damage, and it's a council boss, so you got the unholy damage going on both of the bosses, which is very
Oh,
big.
Yoda.
It is. Oh, Yoda goes down.
Please res my friend Yodad.
They do have a battle res. There we go. Oh no! Oh, the
Yodad
wind. Yeah. So
and
it looks like
Domi.
they're probably going to reset the boss here. Yeah, that's not what you want.
That is 2
They
deaths coming in
did.
from the side of MethodNA, off the back of 1 Yoda death. Whereas on the side of MethodEU here, they're finally down to Accuseer. They are also doing a similar pull to what MethodNA ended up doing with Runecarver's Sorn, but
Now it goes down.
now it's dead.
So I don't know if it's going to be a full team wipe. They do have that rune, so 3 of them are
Okay.
down.
Stop spamming NA lol. NA is still ahead.
Yeah.
Stop spamming
EU lol. What do you mean?
Spam
So
EU
I think
lol.
it was a full team wipe. Oh no. Okay, so it looks like Zalia is.
Can you
Oh no,
stop
he is
posting in chat?
Oh, so Zalia is just kiting everything back, and I think they're trying to keep this pull alive, but Zalia is not standing in the rune.
I believe I've seen this before from the side of MethodEU. So generally, whenever you sign up for a Shrine of the Storm group in LFG, it'll say something along the lines of "weekly no lever," and this is how you know what you're getting into.
Oh, and they pulled the water elemental. Now it's a full wipe.
Current.
Oh, they pulled the living current. Okay, man.
Huh.
All right.
I think our castles are broken.
Going back to
like
MethodNA.
lol in EU.
Man.
Omega lol.
Oh, true. Yeah, so going back to MethodNA, they did reset the council boss. We no longer have the big unholy damage at the start. They are just doing this as you would normally in a normal dungeon. Obviously, it's a 17, so man, y'all are just memeing in chat the entire time.
No. Look at MethodEU. They have the Guardian Ellie again. Or they have the Water Ellie again, man.
Man.
Learning group. Checking IO. Weekly no lever.
Just drop in 3 chests.
Drop in 3 chests. Drop in 3 chests to 16, bro. Go again.
Imagine if that was a rule. Like you could do that.
We go again, but you drop the key.
We go again.
Like you're allowed.
Go again. MethodNA is securely in the driver's seat here.
Yeah.
Going to be downing Tight Sage Council probably pretty soon here. Galecaller Fae being focused. The most dangerous part of this boss is definitely Galecaller Fae, and it's not because of the cast. It's absolutely because of those tornadoes that will occasionally be desynced.
Yeah, so I did want to say something where they're tanking up here. You can see JB sort of standing on the ledge there. It's really scary for the tank because of the tornadoes that are spawning right under the tank. You have to move back and forth. But by positioning him there, the DPS and healers can literally just stand on the ledge and not have to worry about the tornadoes at all. So it's a lot safer for the rest of your team, assuming the tank is okay with having your face your face up the boss's butt, so to speak, and just being it's very risky, right? So swapping over back to MethodEU, they are doing the Runecarver pull once again. Once they dealt with the million water elementals that they accidentally pulled.
Sometimes it's like that,
man. So I'm pretty sure they will be shadow melding, although I don't know if all their shadow melds are up. I think they
This is actually a really fun dungeon to watch, even though it's like. I hope that the guys are having fun. Like with Keystone Masters being a community tournament, it's not exactly the most serious thing. So I hope the guys are not like too upset and are enjoying themselves.
Yeah, I know Trell has expressed to me at least that he's having a lot more fun, at least in time trials. They had a lot more fun compared to MDI, just because there is so much more on the line in MDI. It's a lot more serious vibes compared to KSM, where it is community, uh,
Yeah,
a
and you
community
get the
tournament.
reward of like a Red Lobster gift card.
All right, all right. We get some Blizzard balance.
Can the casters get paid in Red Lobster gift cards, please?
I would absolutely accept a Red Lobster gift card.
I prefer a Chick-fil-A gift card, just saying.
I will take anything. Hold on, my cat is sneezing.
So MethodEU is now pulling the council. They did not wipe on the council like MethodNA. Actually, MethodNA didn't full team wipe. They just had a couple deaths and reset it. But they did successfully do their big pull, which does catch them up a little. But honestly, I think they're too far behind for this to be any significant.
Okay, so I think I've actually pieced 2 and 2 together here. So MethodNA, with the removal of Nerf and the addition of Lip, have converted to a mostly limit-based team.
Correct.
MethodEU are a mostly method-based team, and as we know from
Ooh, I
Nyalotha,
know what you're about to say.
NA is greater than EU.
Oh, you're stirring some controversy right there.
I'm gonna get fucking flamed now. I have ruined myself.
uh,
Fuck. No, so MethodNA has moved on to these Abyss Dwellers in the chapel here, and they have successfully killed all these. And it is tyrannical, so these aren't very scary. These are very monk-esque when it is fortified, but pretty easy to handle when it's tyrannical.
All right,
All
and now
right.
they're on to Lord Stormsong, where the most important aspect of this fight is having Spell Reflect for the Void Bolt. Being able to Spell Reflect every other one cuts down on Lord Stormsong's health pretty significantly. And it
Yeah,
is
so
surprising to me that that button has not either been added to more tank classes or significantly
taken away.
nerfed. Or not taken away, but nerfed significantly.
So we'll see if they are able to immune this, and it looks like they do successfully immune it. So the AMS, the turtle, all that stuff goes down. I didn't see if he meta immuned, but 3 out of the 5 classes can immune. And guys, if you don't know, if you immune the mind control on Lord Stormsong, if you pre-immune rather, you don't get mind control, and obviously it saves a lot of time. You don't have to break them out. You don't have to go jump in the water, any of that stuff. And so it is a significant time saver if you can get that to happen.
Yeah, MethodEU here, running all the way through. They're going to be looking to shadow meld off all of the trash that is following them. Whereas on the side of MethodNA, they are still on Lord Stormsong, making their way up to Volzith. MethodEU has actually recovered significantly for the fact that they have 20 deaths.
Yeah,
I think that they would actually 3-chest this dungeon.
probably,
If
honestly. I
given
think
the
they're still going
opportunity.
to 3-chest this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? Like, if given the opportunity to play it out, I'm pretty sure they would 3-chest this dungeon.
It is tyrannical, and that last boss on tyrannical takes quite a bit of time. It's only 17,
Oh,
so they
can you
should be able
not
to
one
two-phase.
phase?
I
You
don't
should
know.
be able to one
I
phase
don't
it,
know if
right?
they can one-phase this. It'll be really interesting to see if they're able to one-phase
That's
it on a
why they
17
have the
tyrannical.
hunter. That
Probably.
has to be the reason, right? Rogue single target damage versus hunter single target damage. That almost has to be the reason.
Could be, yeah. I know on live anyways, Fire Mage is the best in terms of bursting that boss down.
Absolutely.
Obviously Fire Mage right now in these type of keys, their cooldowns just aren't up frequent enough for it to be relevant. So I don't think bringing a Fire Mage just for that last boss would be of significance. So that could be why they brought the B.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in Fire Mage, in addition to that, the fact that they don't have Font of Power is
True.
not exactly great for them.
They do have, I think they have the PvP trinket, right? But I don't think that's nearly as good as the Font of Power for them.
Well, they would rather use both.
Right.
They want to use double on use.
Right.
All right, so MethodEU here going to be pulling Lord Stormsong shortly. They actually did start the RP a little bit early so that they don't have to stand here and wait around for a little bit. MethodNA has already downed Lord Stormsong. They're making their way towards Vikagath. It looks like they were grabbing... Were they grabbing some of those eels? I'm pretty sure they're grabbing some of those eels right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
they're
So they're about
grabbing
to
some
pull them
eels.
straight... on top of Olzith right here.
Gonna do some
And with
unholy
that,
shenanigans.
yeah, there's about to be some unholy damage.
Yeah, so I think they have at least one obelisk. I think is this the only one? They just have Urgoth?
I don't hate this.
I think this is the only. Oh no, they have
They
the
have
Blood
Blood
of
of
the
the
Corruptor.
Corruptor
They have
too.
two. Yeah.
So they have two. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it doesn't
So
surprise me that they have two. Like we were talking about early on, it can be really rough. Like Sandbreak the Beckoner, 100% off limits. You would eventually end up dispelling your promises of power buff off of yourself whenever you have to dispel the
right.
fear. So he is 100% off limits. Malthier can get a bit rough trying to rotate kicks while also dealing with the intermission phase. That would be really weird.
Yeah.
So Samrak plus Blood of the Corruptor just makes a lot of sense as long as JB does keep himself safe and does not stand in the Blood of the Corruptor zones on the ground. He should be fine. Like
Yeah.
this honestly
So
is pretty safe.
if you're actually looking at what JB's doing, Monk is typically a fairly stationary healer, but he's actually, because that Blood of the Corruptor, he knows he has that debuff. He's literally just constantly moving, and once that Blood of the Corruptor goes down, he's actually channeling right here, which is if the puddle went on him, he could die fairly quickly.
No,
But I think
you
it's
just move out of it. You do get a grace period for whenever
yeah.
that blood does in fact hit you. So
Yeah,
they're
so
probably going
they
to kill all the eels plus the middle pack of trash and then look to burn boss. Well, it depends. Okay, so it kind of depends on how their cooldowns are setting up, right?
they don't even need to do the middle pack. I think they're just doing eels
Oh, you're
into
right. They
boss.
don't. They
Yeah.
actually are just doing eels into the boss, and the boss dies on this
Yeah,
go.
I think they just
They're at
bloodlust and
21 million
unholy
health.
DK.
Oh, dude, 21 million health is like
I think it's
easily
doable for
doable.
sure,
Oh
especially
no,
with
no,
the
that's doable
unholy
for you.
funnel.
They have bloodlust. No, they don't
Bloodlust
even need the
plus
funnel.
the
They have
yeah,
army
this is
plus.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, this boss is dead. Whereas
Yeah, it's
MethodEU
melting.
taking a swim.
Oh yeah. Did they get their diving suits? Yeah.
Are those on the
No,
TR?
no, no, no. No,
One,
no.
please, sir. One shimmer scale diving suit.
One diving suit, please.
I would like to swim a little bit quicker.
And just be druid, right?
Ooh,
Boomkin.
that's my class. Please buff.
Yeah, so they definitely did not even use the entire duration. They did
Oh, yeah, they're
one
chilling.
phase this, and this will be a 204 method in this Reaver and the ret does very similar damage to Demon Hunter would.
Well, we
Okay.
will certainly have to see how this plays out. This is match point for MethodNA. If they win this, they will be winning this entire tournament. MethodEU versus MethodEU. NA, take it away.
Okay, so something that you actually did see at the very beginning is MethodNA actually went around the left side to avoid proccing that witch, whereas MethodEU went straight up the right-hand side, did not care about spawning that witch, and they're going to be pulling that into Heartsbane Triad. Both of these teams on Heartsbane Triad. JB does end up getting silenced, and as soon as that silence does end up falling off, he ends up popping away the crane and spamming spinning crane kick there.
Oh, Lighty goes
so
down.
Whip does pop his bubble. Lighty ends up falling,
Jack
and they're
goes
all
down.
yeah,
And
man.
they're just yeah, so they're gonna have to reset this boss if they're able to. That was a very unfortunate start. Method EU did successfully pull their big pull off. Even they actually had a harder pull because they had that witch, right? So they
Yes.
actually have slightly more percent than Method NA would have had they not wiped. But yeah, so they are moving on to Sister Briar, the third of the 3 witches here. So Method NA walking back, and they did reset. Actually, I think it was a full team wipe. I think everyone ended up wiping there. They weren't able to reset it. They do have that witch there, so I think percentage-wise they're on par with where they would have been. But they are having to start this boss over, obviously, so they are pretty far behind at this.
I'm trying to. I don't exactly know what happened there. It
think it
looked
was
like
necrotic.
everybody was stunned. No, from MethodNA, it looked like everybody gets stunned, but I don't know what it was by.
I think JB got silenced and then fell behind on necrotic, and I just don't think they
That may have been it.
communicated the bop and or dwarf at the correct time. Is what I gather.
Okay, so JB got hodged apparently from the MC. Okay, that's what. Okay, so
Oh,
Chad is telling me that
no.
JB got hodged. It looked like he got stunned, but I was like, what did he even get stunned by? Now just got meleeed to death
Mirrors?
from
Okay,
behind.
so they failed this skip.
They no longer have a shroud.
Interesting. So that's gonna ruin their plans. They're definitely planning on shrouding into that courtyard and
They
skipping.
don't have the shroud anymore.
Oh man, both teams. So that you
So
can't CC both of these guys.
And
but they're
the
gonna,
witch spawn.
yeah, they're gonna have to play this stuff. Oh wait,
If you hug the wall, you can't avoid the witch
nope,
spawning.
nope, they pulled it. They
However,
pulled that captain.
the captain has been pulled.
Oh, Mirrors is on the other side. Now it's still back here, so Mirrors is
I love this.
man.
MethodNA
Well,
is going to be
it
downing
is.
Heartsbane Triad soon.
Looks like they're in the same spot after all, because MethodEU cannot figure out now that their shroud is down. So they are MethodEU is actually just killing these two. I don't believe they ended up pulling that witch. I don't see that witch being pulled. They are going into the courtyard. They are doing their giant pull. Let's see if MethodNA can successfully do this this shroud skip. It looks like they did. They are sky stepping and doing the exact same pull. So really, they're pretty neck and neck after all the shenanigans that just went down.
Oh my goodness! According to Felinator, now's Null Barrier broke Shroud.
Man,
You know what's the
then
most
click
interesting
it
thing?
off.
You can't click it off. You cannot click
Oh,
off
you
Null
have to
Barrier.
wait.
You
Yeah,
have
yeah.
to. You have to wait for it to expire. That is incredibly unlucky, actually. Oh, Lip ends up going
Oh,
down from the side of
they
MethodNA.
do have the
It's
battle
that
res though.
swift battle res coming up. Lighty is dropping incredibly low. There is a 5 stack on the matron.
JB is spamming
Please help
him.
your
The
tank.
matron
Please
goes
help your tank.
down. Okay, so
Okay.
they recover from that. Oh wait, the boss has a 4 stack now. Oh, no, the Thorn Guard has a
The
4
Thor
stack
guard,
rather. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. The Thor guard with the 4 stack. Whereas MethodNA or MethodEU is still in the lead, even after a couple of mistakes there. They're getting Soulbound Goliath just a little bit sub 50%, whereas MethodNA is sitting about 65% on the ball.
Yeah, it's actually very close. I think percentage wise, they're basically the same. Method EU is actually 4% behind, so Method NA is slightly ahead in terms of percent rather, but they are
Oh,
behind
in
on the
terms of
boss.
dungeon count. Okay, I was like,
Right,
what?
right, right.
I don't think 4% on the dungeon is actually
It's not that
that
much, right?
that
That's
large
one
relative to the
pull.
scope of the dungeon. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. In tournament style stuff, once you start getting around the 10ish percent mark, that's where there is an actual difference in terms of time normally from pull versus like trash. You're going to be able to tell discrepancies normally on bosses though. So Method U here
Right.
is going to be downing Soulbound Goliath here in just a couple more seconds. They're seeming to be ping ponging Soulbound Goliath back and forth that allows the tank to not get it meleeed as much and allow him to reset Necrotic.
Yep.
So that's actually a really good strategy.
Yeah, so Method NA about 15% left on Soulbound Goliath. We're going to see Method EU probably do a giant hallway pull here. So let's see if they. There are a couple snap spots in this hallway, and so it'll be interesting to see if they use any of those snap spots or if they're just going to LOS all these maggots.
Why is McConnell spamming mods in all caps in chat? Is it just because his poor ret is not looking so hot?
Probably.
It feels bad, man.
Yeah, people are ratting on the red.
I mean, I think ret
Gnarly's
is
red.
really good. I unironically think red is really good, but the memes should continue.
The memes should continue. Is that what you said?
Absolutely, I love memes.
Yes. Pink memes. So Method NA is actually doing a much bigger pull. They're pulling the entire hallway plus all of Rahal's room into one
So
giant.
this is
Man,
incredibly scary. You're going to see Lighty get bopped and use Strength of the Warden Major to be able to regain threat. He's also going to be using a Stoneform Racial. All of that in order to be able to minimize his
and they
necrotic
just
stacks. Here comes the Ring of Peace too, just to make sure that the necrotic is getting reset as quickly as possible or not being stacked up too much. All of those mobs are enraged currently, and they are
killed
dying.
it.
Okay, Method
Man,
NA
that
is in a
was
good spot.
super clean,
Method
and
EU
they just zoomed ahead. I think.
MethodEU is doing a very similar thing. So you actually can see Bop on now there for a couple seconds. It did fade as soon as we swapped to that POV, and they are also in a really good position. MethodEU did clear out some more trash though.
Yeah, so Method NA is ahead on the boss now, and it looks like they are pulling those maggots. The difference was that Method EU split that Rawls room pool plus hallway into 2 separate pools, and Method NA just did it in one giant pull, and so they actually saved a bunch of time. doing that. And it looks like both teams are pulling that maggot room into Raw at this point. Yeah, so MethodNA is slightly ahead now. So Method E is about 35%, MethodNA is about 25-ish percent. So it is still very neck and neck, but MethodNA caught up with that giant.
Did you know that you can actually block or blade dance the Tenderize cast?
Yeah, it's physical, isn't it?
It's so I don't understand why. Yeah, it is physical.
Yeah. You can also the rotten expulsion right here. You can actually vanish and feign death that as well if you want to prevent the oozlings from spawning, which normally isn't a big deal, especially in speedruns like this. But it is necrotic, and those oozlings do melee, giving your tank necrotic stacks. So that could be something to help out.
Yeah.
Um, so it looks like they are doing the Samric obelisk. They are going to pull that.
hmm
And most likely they're pulling this downstairs
Did they
to the
open the
matron area.
door? I don't think they are. It,
I
it
didn't
looks
see
like
them
they
open the
didn't.
door.
It didn't look like they opened up the door. So they changed Waycross Manor to where the doors will stay open for 30 seconds to allow people to go into the obelisk and then be able to move this mob downstairs. It looked like they didn't open the door, which makes me. It convinces me that they're going to do a large pull with the matron in this downstairs area. They could also potentially just shroud, but it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing here.
Yeah, they could definitely just shroud. Method NA did open the door, so they are doing what we had said. They're pulling Samric down to the stairs on the other side of the matron. It'll be interesting. Yeah,
There we go.
so we saw Method EU do this earlier.
This is Gromnak Waiting Room that we saw do this
Oh, correct, correct.
earlier. So yeah,
Uh,
Bromneck Waiting Room is doing something similar to this, where they were pulling all of this trash here. Making sure that you do get that spell reflect on the matron is the most important point. Making sure that doesn't get eaten by soul bolts or something like that. Because if you get that decaying touch back onto the matron, she takes, what is it, 25% increased damage?
Yeah, 25% increased damage. And obviously, with the Unholy Funnel, you want to get that debuff on her,
Yep.
funnel all the Unholy burst, and you just basically obliterate her. They, as you can see there, they actually killed Matron before some of the other trash at that point. And so it looks like doing that strategy, I think they're now ahead of Method NA. And so these teams are actually going back and forth this entire dungeon.
Mm-hmm. MethodNA sitting on the stairs doing a couple trash mobs, whereas MethodEU pulling all of the trash mobs in Lord and Lady Waycrest room, engaging that boss as well, just making sure that they do get kicks. And they also need to make sure that they move the mob out of those candles. Frag opening up his
Yeah.
character panel to see what he's wearing, make sure that he is in fact wearing Marek Fang, the lovely strength trinket from Temple Sephiroth, as he does end up casting and spitting
Method
on all those mobs.
Yeah, Method and A actually full team wipe just now, pulling the matron
Wait,
in.
what do
So
they do?
they died to matron.
Huh?
So they are
Oh,
respawning and shrouding back downstairs. It
is it
looks
that
like
Ret Pally?
it's probably the Ret Pally. Yeah, so they are taking the obelisk back downstairs. But now Method EU is significantly ahead at this point.
Oh, Matri got the 5 buff. That will
Oh,
absolutely do it. That
yeah.
is a shame. That's that wife.
Unfortunate. Yeah. But yeah, so Method EU is now, I believe this is the third round of Lord Waycrest. They have one more. They need to deplete his health sub 30% one more time, and then
Yep.
they will bring down um, Lady Waycrest, and it looks like they are bringing her down right now. They will finish her off. Generally, especially with a Prot Warrior, one of the things you can do because Prot Warriors can spell reflect Lord Waycrest, you generally want to focus Lady Waycrest and funnel all
Yes.
your damage into her, and basically just passively let the Prot Warrior solo Lord Waycrest in this phase.
In addition to that, the Prot Warrior, you will see him kiting around a significant amount. And if he is out of melee range, Lord Waycrest will not cast that Decaying Touch. So you'll see the Prot Warrior kite for somewhere in the range of 5 to 10 seconds per. And then whenever he does, in fact, do that, he's able to spell reflect every single Decaying Touch cast back onto him, which increases his single target damage pretty significantly. Once these bosses do go down, I expect that they are going to pull all of the Gloom Horrors into Gorak Tool, and with that, it will be kind of scary for now, making sure that he doesn't get too high on necrotic stacks. But if they are able to do this cleanly, get a nice bop reset with Strength of the Warden Major and Stone Form off all of those necrotic stacks, then they will be more than safe.
Oh, so they don't even need to pull the Leapy Boys in. They have the blob. They have percent already. So it looks like this is going to be still a very scary pull because you're pulling all this. I think this is probably one of the hardest bosses just because you're so
Hmm.
confined in terms of space. The blood of the corruptor, the blob, or the puddles that he puts down. I mean, we'll see in a second, but you basically. Wait, did they kill him already? I think they focused him down. Yeah, they must have. Yeah, they focused him down to clear out space, which is counterintuitive compared to most other. When you pull 4 obelisks or 3 obelisks rather with the final boss, most other times you want to focus the tank guy or the fear guy, right? Because those are the most dangerous. But in this case, because you're limited in space, you killed Blood the Corruptor first.
I mean, I think just by itself, Gorak Tool is not innately a dangerous boss to pull obelisks into. I think he by himself is fairly easy. Whenever you do have those gloom horrors, though, it can get kind of
Right.
scary.
Right. Yeah, I agree. He is not the scariest boss by himself. It's really the limitation and the size of the room, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so MethodNA is not just now getting to Gorak Tool, and so they will be significantly behind as MethodEU looks like they're about to wrap this one up.
Yeah, and then they're going to, even though MethodNA was on match point, it looks like MethodEU is going to come back and be down 1-2. But this is definitely going to be pushing this into a fourth match. I'm pretty convinced. It was just issues that MethodNA had really early on. That full team wipe on the Heartsbane Triad really sets your team back. So,
Yeah,
but big ups to MethodEU being able to recompose themselves after that
is that correct?
army.
Yeah, how long is Army?
8.
8 minute. Okay. Yeah, so you only get one use of Army realistically, right? I don't think they've been doing more than 16-minute dungeons. I think we've been seeing about 14, 15-minute workshop.
Yep, well, we are loading into the game here. Just as a reminder, MethodNA only needs one more game win to win this entire tournament, and we'll see if MethodEU can turn it around. Take it away, guys.
Okay, so it looks like Shaq is actually on his Demon Hunter. Lighty ended up going down on that very first pull. I didn't see what exactly happened to him, but he's going to be able to get res right before No Mercy and Platinum Pummeler end up spawning. The big point is that you really want to bait this first Mega Thrust from No Mercy into that hammer, and then once you do bait it in, you can taunt No Mercy to gain threat on the target and just keep him inside the hammer.
Yeah, I'm very confused by the UI we're showing here. It says that we have a DK, but Mears is clearly on his Hunter right now. Um, but yeah, looks like both teams do have that Demon Hunter. So which makes a lot more sense, honestly, because I don't think the Unholy would be a super smart choice in Workshop. But it looks like Frag is actually doing some damage on the Pummeler as
Yeah.
opposed to the I forget his
Well,
name.
once No Mercy starts casting Venge Jet, there's no real reason for you to be hitting it. It's like plus the fact that it was also at like 10%. There's no real
Right.
reason to be hitting it, especially if you are that fixate target.
Yeah.
So MethodEU does down Platinum Pummeler No Mercy very quick, whereas MethodNA still has probably another 10 seconds before they're able to kill the boss.
Yeah, so both of them looks like so it's just the RP that is separating them at this point, and we've actually seen a couple mistakes this hallway. Teams have been doing a giant pull here with all the explodey living wastes, and if you're not line of sight at the proper time, it can instantly kill you just
Mm-hmm.
because these guys do so much damage. It is fortified, so they essentially a couple of them will just immediately kill you.
Ooh, that's actually a sick weak aura that you did see on Fragments' screen right there. It showed him when they started casting that explosion, and it said hide for him. So he cast his eye beam, and then as soon as he saw that weak aura pop up, he instantly just dashed behind line of sight to be able to make sure that he doesn't die. That's actually a really good weak aura. I want
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, make sure to ask him for it afterwards. But it looks like Method EU pulled the dog slightly ahead of MethodNA. And so Cujo is actually a really interesting boss. You have the boxes that are thrown down, and you have to line of sight them. There's two mechanics that bringing a hunter or a rogue. With the jump that happens a bit later on, you can actually vanish and feign death the jump completely as long as you are the farthest person away. So you see Gingy go out to run out right there, and he was able to vanish it, preventing any further jumps. Additionally, the box that we see here, if you position him on the corner, like right up here, you can actually LOS the venting flames. And there's actually a spot, like a one little pixel on the corner where you can actually melee and deal damage to him through the corner of the box. And min maxing that is actually super important, especially for stuff like this.
Or you're just like Fragments and you just dip in and out of line of sight on every
Right.
single tick and melee him through it like a cyber athlete.
The LOS is definitely more important for casters, right? Because of the casting. Melee obviously can sort of just dip in and out and doesn't really hinder you that much.
MethodNA is probably about 25% on Cujo, whereas MethodEU has now just recently downed Cujo, and they're making their way towards some of the gauntlet trash mobs that they're going to have to be dealing with. Okay, so it looks like MethodNA messed up their box, so they dropped Darkness and prayed
Ooh.
to God that they didn't die, but they're somehow able to heal through that. That was very scary.
They're lucky it's a fortified 17. I don't know if you would have been able to live that on anything higher.
Please, bro, Darkness.
But yeah, so they successfully kill Cujo, and they're moving on to the gauntlet. It looks like, yeah, so MethodEU has already started the gauntlet. These four, oh, they do have to watch out for the squirrels. I think they've been just stunning them. They don't really have to do anything there. The tinkerers and the guards, these guys aren't super scary. It's really the second, the MK bots that come out in the second wave that are scary on Fortified.
Yeah, and they're scary because the short out and that debuff that they will all end up casting on players. It can be rough. I don't worry that on a 17 that these guys will be able to heal
Yeah,
through the
for sure.
arcing zap dot plus the short out. It really shouldn't be that big of a deal.
I did want to point out that because this is Sanguine, you actually see both teams drop that first trash pack off to the side. We know that most of the time on live, you just sort of do this smack dab in the center, right? But with Sanguine, especially for that third gauntlet boss or mini boss, I guess you could say, he spawns smack dab in the middle. He's sort of hard to move, so dropping it off to the side like that's pretty. So yeah, Method EU is slightly ahead, ever so slightly, because Method NA just started. Uh, uh, it's a very close match right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is an incredibly close match. MethodNA does also have that one death on the board from Lighty at the very beginning of the dungeon, so there is a 5% time differential between the two teams. But beyond that, like you said, it's just basically what we see on screen.
Yeah. Yeah. So we sort of talked about this earlier. One of the big reasons that we are doing this obelisk here is that it's either do this obelisk or do the maze, right? And there's absolutely no reason why you would ever do the maze. It takes probably about the same time, and you're getting an obelisk out of the way, right? And so it just makes sense to do this obelisk versus doing this maze. I can't even tell you the last time I did this maze. I think it was the first week in Mythic Zeros or something like that.
You mean you don't regularly do this maze for fun?
Do it for fun, yeah.
Yoda made me do this maze once.
Man,
And then we played Blob plus Void Weaver Mouthier together. It was not good.
sounds awful.
It was absolutely terrible.
I hope it was tyrannical.
I don't remember. I just remember it was really bad, and I said that I'm never doing that again. MethodNA is going to be downing Void Weaver Mouthier here, whereas MethodEU has pulled Machinist Garden, pulling that whole entire trash pack on top of it. The defender will also drop those shield bots, the shield generators that they can stand in if the shield generator is close enough to them. Doesn't look like it's anywhere near the guys, but so they're just making sure that they dodge. I really like Machinist Garden just as a concept of a dungeon, as a dungeon encounter, because 100% of the damage on this fight is avoidable. So
You play Boomkin. You like this fight?
I mean, I don't like moving all the time. I like the fact that all the damage is avoidable.
Oh, okay, okay. I was gonna say, yeah, as a
Everything
BM
except
hunter,
for
this
like
fight is very
cannon.
easy, but I think casters hate this fight just because obviously this is a fortified 17, so it's not that big of a deal. But on a higher key, tyrannical like 23, this boss takes forever. There are so many gear, cogwheels spinning around at the end. It's super hectic. It's actually probably one of the most scariest bosses out there.
Yep. Now walking up to that plant that is firing onto him, and now they're getting Machinist Guard in sub 20%, dodging away from those flame jets. I don't believe that's flame cannon. That's the name of it. Dodging away from those flame cannons. And on the side of MethodNA here, they are at about 20-ish% on Machinist Garden. This is a really close game right now.
Yeah, yeah, it's probably about a 10-second difference. Closer to 20 according to the previous split. But yeah, so we're pulling these spider tanks, and the spider tanks, especially on fortified, you have to be really careful because of that sonic pulse, I believe is what it's called. Silences you for a very long time. I think it's like
It's
eight
like 6
seconds
seconds,
and
or maybe it's
6
8
seconds,
seconds.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it does a lot of damage, especially on full fortified.
Yeah.
So they do kill. So this is sort of interesting to see to talk about the spider tank, the back spider tank that spawns in the far back, close to this the little mount zoo that they're on right now. He is actually the one that spawns the mount, right? And so killing him first spawns or procs the RP, spawning the portal to get to this platform.
Yeah.
And so they did kill the correct spider tank first, obviously reducing the time it would take.
Yeah, it's a few seconds gained over just killing them both at the exact same time. You see now skillfully procking a Twilight Devil on this whole entire pack, topping the damage meters at 300k DPS currently. Short outs going off. But overall, this is not going to be very dangerous. Then
I
after this, they're going to group meld and run into King Mechagon's room.
Yeah, I think your talking to him on Twitter really helped him land his Twilight devs.
I love that. I love now. Like I said, nice.
But yeah, so they are going to kill this MK bot, and I'm pretty sure they're just going to shout him out. This they have the percent with all the obelisks from
Yeah, just a little tip: don't ever play this trash pack. This pack is
very
just banished.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the fear comes out. He's going to leap and shadow meld right here. It looks like MethodNA is just finishing up the previous trash pack. They will be doing the exact same thing, shadow melding past that trash pack. And MethodEU has pulled the final boss. They have the aerial unit plus the 3 obelisks minus the caster. So
All
the
right, so these
bloodlust does
three
go out.
awakened obelisks can be kind of dangerous if not dealt with appropriately, just because of how they're done. They did kill Void Weaver Malthier earlier, so they do not have that kick required. But if they do, in fact, get all 3 of these awakened obelisks down, they are in a really good position to be able to take this match and to tie it up to 2-2.
Yeah, so we actually saw something sort of funny
Oh,
yesterday from
GG.
Swagstep. He actually got stunned. So the transition after you kill aerial unit, there's like a 10-second stun. He actually got stunned as his corruption procced, and he had like 50 something corruption, and his corruption just killed him through the duration of that stun. So this isn't, it is a little scary with that stun, especially with the lightning orbs that are going around. If you get stunned next to that, you have to kill him and make sure the timing is down.
That's
When
honestly
you kill
very
him.
unlucky.
Yeah.
Like not even like a skillful problem. It's just like, oh man, that actually just kind of sucks. So yeah, MethodEU has phased the boss, getting stunned right there. Method on the side of MethodNA, they are going to be downing their awakened mobs here in just a couple more seconds. You'll see the room
Oh
clear up.
no.
JB and Letty both do go down there at the exact same time. Not looking
Yeah.
that hot for our NA heroes. I think both of them do end up getting battle res. So here comes the activating thrusters. Lighty is back up. Method NA is able to recover, but they're still just a little bit even further behind Method EU now. Now they incur a 10-second penalty on top of their 5 seconds that they had from deaths earlier.
Yeah, no, this game is definitely method used to lose at this point. As long as nothing happened, maybe proc a couple extra Twilight devs, they should win this match.
You see that Magneto arm coming out from the side of MethodEU. It's pretty dangerous if you're on higher level tyrannical keys, but on a 17 fortified, nobody's going to be taking too much incidental damage from the Magneto.
Oh
Um,
no, no! JB gets knocked
um,
off.
um, um, yeah, please switch the
Oh,
POV. Switch the POV
switch
right
the
now. Thank
POV. Switch the POV. So, yeah,
Yeah,
MethodEU does
MethodEU takes
take
that.
this
Definitely,
win.
definitely did that. Definitely did not just happen.
Definitely, yeah. No one saw that. No one saw that.
Controversy. However, we are loaded into the game. This is match point for the grand finals. MethodNA versus MethodEU. Take it away.
Yeah, so immediately already starting out, it looks like they are going different routes. I believe Method EU is getting all of the shock bots initially, and I think that
So
Method NA just went straight towards
they're both going towards Gunker, and they're both about to just pop Bloodlust and pull all the trash straight into Gunker. It just allows them to have a little bit better of Bloodlust timings because this is going to be a 2 Bloodlust dungeon. You're going to want your second Bloodlust on the HK8 robot whenever it is in that first phase with all of your awakened mobs. So doing a very large pull at the very beginning towards that Gaba
you
Mac
mean
area
yeah,
is.
yeah, I think you said Gunker at first, but yeah,
I did say
Goblin
Gunker. I did not mean Gunker. I meant Gaba Mac.
Yeah. And I think that's honestly the reason they go Goblin Mac is because the way it is set on Tournament Realm, the hard mode bot that flies up in the air starts over Gunker, I believe, and so you're sort of restricted in the route that you take. On live, every couple weeks that aerial bot switches who he starts on, and that sort of determines whether you go Gunker or Goblin Mac first. Usually, you go one of those first, regardless. But yeah, so that is why they are going this route first initially.
Yeah, just cooldown optimization in terms of where they're using their bloodlust. Because going to the Gunker side, you don't really get as advantageous of a bloodlust like on the open.
Yeah.
Whereas right there for MethodNA, you actually can see the stated buff. It is tracked in the bottom right hand corner of JB's UI. So he used it. They used it on that very first pull. It was good usage. Double bully into Gaba Mac can be scary if you don't dodge the shockwaves. But with gamers of this caliber, I'd like to hope that they don't get killed by the shockwave.
You would hope. So they are pulling in some I think they're pulling in some grunters. And so one of the things that you can do on this fight is the shock that you do so you soak the tank mechanic and you can go use these pillars to shock all these grunters. If you pull in outside grunters that are not a part of the fight, the shock will actually kill them as well. And so you
You mean
can
the robot? The
robot,
the
correct. So
pillars
sorry,
do
sorry.
not. Yeah, the pillars do not kill the grunters that are pulled from outside, but the robot absolutely will.
Yeah,
There's also, I think there's a bug on this fight where occasionally you won't be able to drop off your charge smash debuff, but fairly fun. So,
yeah,
I think it happens very infrequently.
yeah. It's pretty rare. I think it's happened to me once. But yeah, so
Whew.
both teams are neck and neck. It looks like Method EU is slightly ahead.
Yeah,
Not exactly sure where they are in terms of percentage. I think they're about the same percent. I think Method NA is 3% ahead. So, which 3% in this type of dungeon doesn't really matter. So they are neck and neck.
it really just comes down to just like how practiced everybody is on these dungeons, plus the discrepancies between the Beast Mastery Hunter and the Havoc Demon Hunter. So to get Urgroth Breaker of Heroes, the Tank Buster guy, he ends up getting pulled on the side of Method EU, meaning that they will not be playing him with the HK bot. Method NA looking like they're electing to skip
Yep.
him. So
Yeah.
that's going to save them some time, but it is a riskier strategy that we will see how it ends up paying off at the very end of the instance.
Yeah, so Method and A doing a giant pull in Trixie and Nano's room. It looks like they're pulling everything into Trixie and
Oh,
Nano
there's a
with
crawl.
a crawler. That is a very scary pull. It
Monka
is
danger.
tyrannical, so they don't do that much damage, but it is pretty scary. Actually, wait, they did not pull that
Blasters.
into the boss actually.
Yeah, no, they didn't
Okay.
pull it into the boss, but so blasters and crawlers are by far the most dangerous mobs in this part of the area. The run and gun, plus just like the random damage that the blasters can do to party members, and then the crawler, of course, does that I don't even know what it's called, like charge pulse or whatever, that
Yeah.
stupid amount of AoE. Both of those are fairly scary.
Yeah, so very similar pulls coming out from both teams. Neither of them, it looks like neither of them did trash with Trixie.
I wonder why that is.
Yeah, you would think that you would
Granted, this boss
funnel
is actually kind of scary
a
sometimes. Like
tyrannical, yeah.
on tyrannical, it's probably not that bad on a 17. Oh, the bike is coming through the boss. Please dodge.
Yeah.
All right, good dodge. Did you know that this boss requires 4 melee kicks to be able to get all of them, and
Yeah.
doesn't have a lockout time?
Yeah, the tase actually hurts a lot, especially on high tyrannical keys. And typically, unless you're running 3 melee, you're gonna get some that go through, and that dot lasts for quite a bit. The healing requirement is a lot. I think Genji has one right now, or
Bring a
maybe
prop
just
pally, bro.
yeah,
Throw your shield at it. MethodNA does down Trixie and Nano, and they are making their way towards Cat Island, whereas MethodEU here sitting um, still at about 20% on both Trixie and Nano. So MethodNA, it looks like actually they're pathing towards the Gunker area, trying to make sure that they avoid all of those scrap hounds that are in the middle area. Okay, so they're just making their way towards the slimes of
yeah.
Gunker.
So with Gunker, if you haven't seen this dungeon before, there are 3 giant green slimes that you have to kill in order to spawn Gunker. And normally you sort of just go with the first one that's near Gunker and go down the path and get all 3. It looks like they
Oh,
are doing it reverse,
this
so
is
that
really
they
smart.
end up at Gunker. Yeah,
So the reason, so the reason that they're doing it like this is because those robots actually have travel time that they have to walk to make their way towards the towards that area. So by pulling the far ones first, they're going to have less travel time because there is one toxic monstrosity that is in the Gunker room that activates quickly. It's I also think is really cool that we did see them pulling double monstrosity on top of that
yeah.
and utilizing the revival dispel component to be able to dispel off that consume dot that will be
Yeah,
put on
well,
players.
not only that, they utilize I think Prot Warrior has a spell called like Spell Reflect or something like
Yep.
that, and it sometimes does a lot of damage, especially
Yep.
to these monstrosities. You can Spell Reflect the pull in that they do. It puts a giant dot on you. Normally, you can Spell Reflect that. You destroy that mob's HP. I will see it here again with this monstrosity that they're about to pull, but it usually dies before a lot of the other trash.
Oh, okay. So interestingly enough, they also grabbed some of the Mechagon troopers. So there's like a 3-pack that's sitting right out in front of the Gunker area. They grab that in. JB does get shrunk, able to dispel himself off, just to be able to deal with that. Again, it looks like everybody's just standing in melee for this consume cast. There's going to be some dispels going out. It looks like there's an AMS on Shakib as well. I don't think that there was a revival available because
They used to
I just
previously.
it just didn't look like there was a revival available. Maybe I'm mistaken though.
Yeah, so Method EU is actually starting
On
Gunker
Gunker, huh?
quicker than Method NA. I'm not
Method
exactly
NA
sure
definitely
what
got
they
more
pulled.
trash here, though.
Yeah. The trash percentage is neck and neck. So they're actually
Yes.
Method EU is actually slightly ahead. So did they bloodlust?
No,
Or
they absolutely didn't bloodlust. I think that Method NA was just a little bit behind in terms of trash count from the Gaba Mac area
okay, yeah.
because they definitely got more trash than Method EU here.
Yeah.
So both of these teams onto Gunker with Method EU seeming that they have a slight advantage. Oh, interestingly enough, Method EU also has higher trash count than Method NA currently does, even still. EU more trash and faster. Exactly. They're definitely in the driver's seat at this point.
Yeah, for sure. We will work on getting that camera updated. There's a error somewhere.
Where's Team
Yeah,
Gromnak
there we
waiting
go. There
room?
we go. Crommac rating. Yeah. Method EU looks like they are about to kill Gunker here. Method NA is still about 15% left. So they did zoom ahead of Method NA. We weren't looking at their point of view, so not exactly sure what they did differently, but Maybe they just got a 5 buff or something.
Could just be pathing. It
True.
literally
That's true.
just could come down to more optimized pathing. This dungeon is so unexplored, and with it being so open concept, there's a lot of optimizations that can be made in terms of the routing that we're going to be seeing throughout. Not only just like we've seen a difference in routing throughout the dungeon, we're going to be seeing a lot of differences in routing throughout the MDI season and throughout just season 4 of BFA, just in terms of what people are pulling, because this dungeon is so open. There's so much room for flexibility. How many awakened mobs are you going to be playing with the final boss?
Yeah, for sure.
In addition to that, MethodNA also is going to be playing 4 awakened mobs with the final boss, where I think MethodEU only has 3.
Yeah, MethodEU did do the
Yep,
tank
they played
buster
Samrak.
already, so it is gonna be a
Uh,
lot safer for them.
yeah, Urgroth. So now they're gearing up to pull this Cavalier pack. I wonder if they're going to pull it with the patrol. Okay, so they're not pulling it with the patrol. This pack only gives, I believe it is like 21 count by itself. So I don't know if that is enough with all 3 obelisks for them. We have swapped back over to the MethodNA POV. This is actually a really good pull. The coil bears are not exactly the most dangerous mob here. Just making sure that they do get those renormalizers kicked and dodge the cavalry's rapid fire as is going in
Double rapid fire, a
alternating
little
directions.
scary.
That is very scary.
It is tyrannical though, so they are not that deadly. And it looks like they're going to this obelisk
Okay,
right.
so they're playing this obelisk. They're playing Samrak the Beckoner.
Yeah,
So EU wanted Urgroth to not be played with HK8, whereas MethodNA would rather have Samrak the Beckoner not play with HK8. MethodEU very much in the driver's seat. It's if they can get down all 3 of these lieutenant mobs, they are probably going to be looking to take this match.
yeah, MethodNA still has to do Samric, and they are fairly behind. So as long as nothing major happens for MethodEU, it looks like they are in the driver's seat.
Constantly moving to make sure that they do dodge those Blood of the Corruptor pools. Also, making those walkie-talkies follow behind them to where that their zones, those electric zones that you can see on the ground right there, are also behind them, just to mitigate as much damage as possible. Now they only have Voidweaver Malthier left available for them, while that tank buster does end up going down. They're probably going to be able to one phase HK8, as it is, even though it is a tyrannical setting, it is still a 17. So it should be pretty good for MethodEU, as long as they are able to seamlessly get through this gauntlet, which I suspect that they will be able to. As long as they're able to seamlessly get through this, then it should be chilling.
Yeah, so that gauntlet actually, most classes, well, every class can jump over it if you know the timing. A lot of classes, Demon Hunter, Warrior, stuff like classes like those can just use their leap and just go immediately across. But yeah, every class can just jump over those little I don't know, what do you call those? Lightning
Did you know that you can cast
beams?
while doing this this electric pillar? So you can like
What do you
heal
mean
and stuff.
cast? Oh, I
You
didn't
can
know that
cast
actually.
ability, so you can like heal while doing it.
Yeah, I play a Beam Hunter. I wouldn't know that.
All right. Well, you can't heal. Other people can heal. All right. So Haywire is going out on HK8. Of course, making this boss take significantly increased damage. He's getting melted in the current state. Will absolutely go down before he ends up going up into the air. And MethodEU coming back with the reverse sweep.
Wow, Aya? I think Aya called it.
I did call it. And everybody else that voted for Method EU, we are superior.
Okay.